Hi, it's time for Dr. Fixmaster. Let's install a trailer hitch receiver on a 2020 Highlander vehicle. I've got the factory instructions. There's a lot of information online about aftermarket hitches, hitch receivers. I didn't really like the aftermarket ones because they hang below the bumper, and that ruins the departure angle or reduces it of your vehicle. So you got that hitch hanging down in the back. I thought the more optimum solution was to go with the factory hitch, which sticks out through a new bumper cover. Now, the instructions that you get from Toyota when you do this are not too bad. They're not that great. The picture visualizations are not very good. I found that they miscount the number of fasteners that you have to remove, and I have a trick that I want to show you that how to align the bolts, because when you put the hitch under there, it weighs about 80 pounds. Real difficult to do with one person. So I wanted to show you tricks to how to get that in there and to get the holes lined up. I'm not going to go over the whole thing or take it apart and show you the whole thing. I'm going to show you the finished product so that you can have a picture in your mind or something to check with your own install as to what fasteners you end up with, because there are extras. You end up with extra stuff that you have to throw away or you can't use. I'm going to point those out to you, and also some of the key points that gave me trouble, so that you won't have to fuss through it. So let's get right to it. Here are a picture of the clip fasteners that you find all over in this install. The first one here is the one that you see when it's fully engaged. That's what you have to remove. You have to get a screwdriver or some flat edge underneath the centerpiece there, and you got to pull it out so that it looks like this. That's the only time that you want to pull these out. If you try to pull them out like this, you're going to destroy them, and you have to save them to use them later. So be careful with those. Take your time, and take especially a lot more time with the first few until you get good at popping those tops off. And then once you get it like this, they just come right out. So just be mindful of that. Here's in the back in the trunk. One thing I was not aware of, but I had to look in the owner's manual to figure out, because I could never have figured this out on my own. But under this piece is a bolt, and this thing right here goes on top of it, and you use the pieces that come with the car to turn this crank counterclockwise. It's tied to a cable on the inside, which will lower the spare tire down all the way to the ground. And if it sticks, wind it up a little bit, drop it back down. You want to get that all the way on the ground with a little bit of slack, so that you can lift up on the tire, and with the slack that you have to pull the little fastener underneath. Here, let me show it to you. You have to pull this fastener that's on the cable, supports the tire sitting there like that. So when you have enough slack in it, you can bend this and stick it up through the hole in the middle of the tire and get it out. So you want to get that spare out of there to do this job. One of the tricky things is the removal of these taillight covers. Now you want to start right here in this corner and just peel it up and work your way across and move it out this way and then out. And you want to jiggle it around and be very, very careful with it, because all they are is little plastic pieces if you don't want to destroy it. And that's one of the things that I found was at risk in this install was this piece. Some installation videos show you removing the whole taillight assembly. That's not necessary. Once you get this cover off, there's a bolt that's right here that holds on the bumper assembly. That bolt comes out, and the one on the other side, that allows you to take the bumper off. The clips and screws that are around this flange here are pretty straightforward and easy to take off, and the thing just pops out once those screws are out. One thing I found was really tricky. Once that was out, getting this whole bumper assembly, starting with this, all the way and wrapping around, and the cover, the bumper cover, the black part on the bottom, that all comes out as one piece. When you're removing that bumper piece, you want to start on the side right above the wheel well here. And it looks like there's a hex key screw or something there. It looks like it wants to come out, but it doesn't. You leave that alone. It's just to hold the piece that clips to the plastic of the bumper. And you start right here, and you just very gently work your way around, and get your fingers under it and pull it straight out like this, and it'll pop out as you go around towards the back. And then the whole thing, after you release a few clips on the bottom, the whole bumper assembly comes off, and you can take it apart on your lawn so that you don't scratch it up. The instructions say to pull out all the rail plugs and the drain holes. Don't follow the instructions and pull out only the number that they tell you to. It's wrong. You need to pull them all out, because that's going to make room for the actual hitch when you install it. So get them all out of there. These are the pieces that you end up throwing away that you don't need with the old kit. Now pay close attention to these so that you can see what you end up with that you throw away and that you don't need. You'll see the little little clips where the bolt goes, both of them, right hand side and the left hand side. Of particular interest, there's the equivalent right here. Of particular interest in this case is the S hook. So here's the one on the driver's side. Near the front of it, you can see that's where an S hook goes. You don't want to lose that. You want to keep that piece. Slide that S hook off and put it on your new part, because it goes on there. And by the same token, you've got another one of those S hooks that goes up right there. Save that one, put it on the next one. There's a bracket that goes on one of the frame rails. This comes off. It's got a 10mm bolt on here also. I harvested that, and I'm using it somewhere else, and I'll tell you that interesting story in a little bit. Something else to watch out for. You're going to end up with that as well. Of particular interest is this bumper cover piece on the very bottom of the back. This whole thing is discarded. And you will notice the places where the clips go. There's, I believe, there's a few of them actually. And the number that you remove is not the same as the number that you put back. So I'm going to show you the new bumper cover and what goes into it. There's only 2 clips on the bottom of it when you put the new one in addition to the, once you clip it back into the colored part of the bumper, you're going to have 2 little white clips left over. You don't need to worry about those, because the new one doesn't match perfectly to the old one. So you're going to have 2 white clips that mesh this with the colored part of the bumper, and those will just be thrown away. Of interest also too, you'll see this is like a cover to protect, the exhaust pipe is right here below it. Because you're putting in the hitch has a metal one on it, so that means you can throw this one away. Incidentally, if you lose a bolt, there's an extra 10mm right there, and I think it's probably worthwhile to harvest this extra clip, because those things are very brittle when they get old, and you're working on your car, you probably break some of them. So harvest those wherever you can and use them. Here's inside of the vehicle on the driver's side, right near the back window. Right behind that panel is where the converter plugs in and attaches with a 10mm bolt. There is something here to be extremely careful of. First of all, the pictures in the Toyota instruction manual are worthless. This is the weather stripping right here. You could just pull straight out on that, and it'll pull the weather stripping out, and it will expose the edges of this plastic that you can just gently pull out until it releases the clips. And it doesn't fully come off, but you can bend it out of the way enough that you can work behind here. What they don't tell you about is that behind this, you pop that circle off with a screwdriver, 10mm bolt there. Down inside here is another 10mm bolt that you access through this. You flip this up, gives you access to the other 10mm bolt that's behind there. And I think that there might be another one in here too. There might be 3 of them, but look for the bolts. They don't tell you about the bolts, but there are bolts in the way that keep you from pulling this panel out towards you. And you just sort of bend it out of the way while you're in there working. There's just a hole there with a little notch, and you just put the converter right there and screw it in with one screw. It's not too hard to do, but one thing I would recommend is that when you're doing that work, after you've removed this, it just pops out. It's not hard to get out. But after you remove this, there's a big gap in between the metal of the car and the plastic on the inside. And I was fumbling around with the bolt, trying to keep the plastic out of the way and trying to thread the bolt in to put the converter on, and I dropped it. That bolt fell down in between the plastic and the metal, went way down inside of there, and I was trying to fish a bolt out with my hands. Of course, every time I would push my hands down, it would pull the plastic out and the bolt would just fall deeper and deeper. It's now permanently part of the car, way down in there somewhere, and there's no way I'm going to go digging for it. So I just harvested an extra 10mm bolt to attach that thing, and we're off and running again. But that's just something to avoid. So when you take this piece off, stuff it with newspaper or something that will catch any bolt that you fall when you're putting that converter in. Something to avoid headaches. It was the first bolt of the day, and it was the first one I screwed up, so it was very frustrating. Another thing too about that converter is there's nothing special about it. You just plug it in. There's an open plug that you see there, and it's got this breakaway tape on it. You just take away the breakaway tape, plug the thing in, and attach it, and you're done. Okay, this is under the passenger side. When it's all done, you can see there's a few bolts there. You can see the bolt configuration when you're finished. So all the holes are full. That's why you take all those rubber plugs and drain covers out. So you end up with a bolt in all those. Way up inside of there is where there's a bracket. Up inside here, you can kind of see it black. It attaches against the frame rail with 2 bolts at the top, and there's a matching one on either side. So the pictures of those in the manual are pretty accurate. What they don't tell you about is they get the numbers of these wrong until the picture. You kind of have to figure it out because you got all these bolts and you're trying to figure out what to do with each of them. The instructions aren't super clear about how to get that done. So there's the bolt configurations. They're the same on both sides when you're finished. This one is used to line it up to begin with. Then you attach that when you put the actual hitch on. But here's the left panel. This shows the 10mm bolt / screws that hold it in place. So I'm just going to let you get a good look at what fasteners I have in place. There's another one there. Over on the corner is just one of those clips. Got another clip there, and then back around again to the 10mm at the end. On the driver's side, it's pretty much the same. I've got it covered up now because this back cover covers everything, but it's virtually identical to the one on the other side, so you don't have to worry too much about that one. I do want to give you a good look at the fasteners for this. That I used a 1/2 inch deep socket to get to. That is like just a nut. It's very flimsy and it will crush if you abuse it too much. So be very careful. I used a deep socket on that to turn it, and eventually, worked it until it came off. There's 2 of those on this, just on this piece, on the driver's side. Let's take a look at the other fasteners. You've got same configuration on the corners of the other side. So there's the 3 10mm. And let's see, as we work our way around here, you will see clip number 1. There's the clip in the corner. Another 10mm. I think that's it. Yeah, just the 2 clips, and 1, 2, 3, 4 10mm, and those 2 weird. They're actually embedded right on this piece. They don't even come off. They just rotate right there, and they're very flimsy. kind of thin metal, but you know, their purpose is to hold that in place. They were a little bit tricky to get off, and that's one of the reasons why it's good to, you pretty much have to take the spare out before you get started, just to give yourself some room to work. Okay, I mentioned that the number of clips doesn't match on the old and new, so I want to show you what the new one does. There's the clip corner that holds down the bumper cover, and I'm just tugging on it a little bit so you can see what moves. So that gets held on by the corner clip. And then as you move across here, you see the bumper, and then here's another one that is held in by a clip. And when you get it, it's kind of folded the other way, and you kind of have to bend it in place before you shove the clip through. And there's only two of those. There's one right there, and then of course you got the connector, which is really easy to put on. It comes with the equipment, and you just bend this in place and bolt it on right here. And then as you move your way across, you see there's another one right here. And again, this piece on the bumper cover, the new bumper cover, you have to fold up into place and then jam that clip up through it, and there's two of them. And then you go all the way over to the other corner on the opposite side, where there's another clip way over there in the corner, just like on this other corner. And those are the fasteners that will get you in place. And I'm going to show you that when you're done, you've got stuff sort of hanging around not doing anything. There's a hole in this cover which replaces that plastic piece I showed you on the old bumper cover. Now you got a hitch here that's made of metal. So your exhaust pipe shield is now made of steel. Here's a connector now that used to hold the old bumper piece. And there's a few things in here that just have holes in them that are no longer used for anything. Make sure you get a good look at that. So there's another one right there, you can see. Just kind of sticks out like that. Another one right in front of my face right here. Also that just kind of sticks out and doesn't really do anything anymore. So don't be alarmed by that. That's what you can expect. I hope you can see this, but way over there by that red reflector, which is getting sunlight from the outside, which is why it's colored that way, you can see a white clip. That's one of the white clips that holds the bumper cover to the actual bumper. And when you put the new bumper cover on it, you're going to have a couple of those left over. So don't worry about that. All right, this cable right here comes with the bumper, and Toyota's rigged it up really nice so that all you have to do is plug into the connector that's already there. You just pull the cap off right here, throw it away, plug in the one that's on the trailer hitch, and you're good to go. Okay, I want to show you a trick now that allowed me to do this one-man job. Is I used a jack to hold up the back portion, or the main piece of the hitch while I was installing it. Now, one thing that helps you to do is that it takes most of the weight so that you can use your muscle to maneuver the hitch into place. And it's kind of hard to show you, but there's two arms on it that hook up to those brackets that I showed you earlier, and they swing back up, and you see the bolts on them. So it's this U-shaped bar that goes all the way around. Now, why that's important is the holes I found don't line up very well. So when you're trying to thread those holes and you're trying to get all the bolts in, they don't line up super well, and you kind of have to fudge it around a little bit to get it to work. Okay, now what I found that was really helpful is once the weight of the thing is supported by the jack, these bolts that hold these in place are tapered, and that helps you a lot, because if you can get it even threaded, even if the holes don't line up perfectly, or if you're able to get it in and get it threaded properly, it will tug on the rest of the assembly and line up the holes for you, so that you can use one bolt at a time strategically to help pull the others into place. And what I really found to be helpful was loosely attaching one side. Once I got it all attached on one side, again, loosely, so that it could be maneuvered by hand, not in danger of popping off and dropping on you, but loose enough that you can still maneuver everything around. Then you can come over here to the jack, and you can play with the jack to raise and lower it while you're monkeying with the other side. And when you're doing that, that will allow you to get the holes, at least in my case, finagling that a little bit made it possible for me to get all the other bolts over here threaded in. And I even had to take it apart again because I made the mistake of not taking out all those drain covers and plugs. And so I had to pull them out that way by supporting the weight, having one side attached, and then dropping the jack so that the other side would lower a little bit. And then I was able to pull those drain plugs out, because all these bolts have a place to go, and they don't tell you that in the instructions, which is very inconvenient. So take care of that in advance, and it'll save you a lot of trouble. But I was able to do that procedure by using the jack and attaching one side to do what I described and to get those plugs out. And once I did it on one side, I attached the other side and then went to the opposite and attached, removed the plugs over there. But if you do it all in advance and you know that you need to, you will be spared that trouble. So I hope that's helpful to you guys. And once you get all those things loosely aligned and everything is all those bolts are in, then the procedure in the manual is correct, and you can go through and snug them all up in a particular order, tighten them down, and you're ready to roll. Okay, so that's it. There's not a lot available on this topic for the 2020 Highlander. And this isn't meant to be a complete substitute or a full install, but just to highlight some of the things that I ran into where the instructions were either incomplete or hard to understand or outright wrong. Those are the things that gave me the most trouble. You can follow the instructions that come with the factory equipment on the 2020 Highlander hitch install. But I have highlighted the things that are different or wrong, so hopefully that'll make your job go a little bit easier. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. I hope it's helpful to you. Happy fixing and good luck.